Hello everyone and welcome to From the Depths Tutorials. I'm going to be doing a series of short videos based on pretty much anything that people might have questions about in From the Depths. Starting with the basics, so let's go over to the single player and just go into the vehicle designer. We're just going to go into the vanilla designer right now, where you will be greeted by this familiar sight. It is a small starting raft and a small respawning beacon. So, From the Depths, it's a voxel based building game, meaning you can place blocks. And it's all gonna be beautiful. Now there's a couple little tricks. For example, you can see a huge list on the left. E is for inventory, where you can see all the blocks. Hold tab to change orientation so you can turn things around. You can see the special axes, like they also change, so for example, looking right now, Q and E can flip it upside down, which you can, for example, see with this block. It changes its orientation. There we go. And of course, there's 3 different ways of rotating. Then there is G to align the block with the camera. For example, I want this panel to face that way. Just press G. You can press, oh, there we go. Press N to turn on mirror mode, which is basically anything we build here will be mirrored there, and then we can remove it again. F to fill, which is basically if we put we have a little square here, or we can build it a little bigger. If we press F, it fills it up with the block we have selected. Note that pressing F to fill does not actually mirror. Anyway, let's get to the next point. We can use shift to replace. So for example, if we place a control terminal here, and then I'd like one over here for some reason. It doesn't work because I'm trying to place it. Right, never mind. If we want to place a wooden block here instead of that thing, just hold shift to replace and then just build like you normally would. Then there is R, so for example, let's place down air pumps, and then we have our wooden block selected. If we want to place more air pumps, just go over to the air pumps, press R, and then you can place more air pumps. Of course, there's Alt to go down, space to go up, WASD to move the camera around, etc. P to shrink the blocks. This helps if you have an enormous turret that you're trying to build on. You can shrink that so you can see what is actually happening. You can turn on... Sorry about that. You can press middle mouse button to leave perma build or add it. So that way I don't have to press anything, just wherever I go, it's gonna build water pumps. And then when you have selected, you press middle mouse button again, it goes the same but perma remove. That way we can get rid of all those water pumps we just placed. Also, one more trick for the vehicle designer, press caps lock and you can freeze the vehicle in midair so you can build below the waterline and just build without having the whole boat rocking around all the time. As you can see right now, which is what can be annoying at times. Then there is F3. To switch to mouse-based building, which is another way of doing it. Key-based is really the optimal way that the game is designed for, and the way that I really use, so I'm going to stick with that, but feel free to change that if you want. And you can press backslash to see all the forces working on this vehicle, which is basically gravity right now. Let's turn off caps. There we go, we can see multiple forces. That's useful for when building planes and things. But let's leave that for now. Let's take a look at all the blocks that we have. So, we have wooden blocks, we have stone blocks, we have metal blocks, lightweight alloy blocks, window blocks, and lead blocks right here. Those are pretty much the basic blocks that you're going to be using to build your things. Like, for example, wooden blocks are... You have a lot of options here, like you can try and make rounded corners here with triangles. And you can have a wooden slope down, for example. They want to have a wood beam. There you go. See? That way you can build things. Now, you can also go to stone, which has only limited support right now. It's mostly used for building... Well, you can build fancy looking outposts with it. Then there is metal, which basically has the same options that wood does. Just holding shift to replace there again. And there we go, we now have a nose made out of metal, which you can use for things. Then there is lightweight alloy blocks, which are basically less heavy than the metal, but they do have less health in return, which is basically a compromise. When you need a bit more protection than wood, or you want to build a light flyer, note that it is quite expensive. Then there's all sorts of window blocks and glass, which allows you to basically build pretty things like windows and a cockpit for your plane and that sort of thing. And finally there's lead blocks. Lead blocks are basically the keel. If your ship is imbalanced in the water, you can just put a lead block on the bottom like they have on this little starter raft. And that will help it remain balanced, instead of riding on the waves like an idiot. See, there we go, and then you can also see the little green or red indicator, depending on whether you're on a block or not. That is the center of weight for the vehicle. And then there is an arrow when you're actually placing blocks. That is the general direction your craft is facing in. So that this point is the nose of the vehicle, and this point is the back of the vehicle, which can be useful. Like, fuel engines will only work when you're building in this direction, but we'll get into engines at another point in time. For now, we'll just keep looking at all the general blocks. You've got surge protectors. They protect against EMP damage. We'll talk about them later. There's explosive reactive armor, or ERA armor. Again, we'll talk about that later. There's rubber blocks, which basically soften the blow. So, for example, if you're gonna hit something and you don't want it to damage you, then you can put rubber on there and it acts like a cushion. Pretty straightforward. Then there's also light blocks, which can be used to build a bit more complex things. We'll cover that as well at some point. It's not really important for the basics right now. Right, so you're going to be building a boat. We're just going to stick to regular wooden blocks right here for the moment. And we're going to be like, alright, this is a nice looking little boat. We'll just build it square for now. Like, it doesn't have to be pretty, but we're gonna use this as a little example boat. I'm just gonna get rid of this lead here for now, and we'll place it over here. Right, now if we weren't building out of wood, we could probably do with an air pump at this point. It basically treats this little room, because it's watertight, it doesn't have any leaks, like for example now it would leak, but thankfully it is above the surface, so it's not leaking. But it wasn't a room, and now it is. And you can also put a roof over it, of course. So, like we just learned, we can use the fill command here. Now this is a boat, and because we have an air pump in here, this contained area will provide lift, it will provide buoyancy. Basically, if you want to build bigger ships, you want to have multiple compartments of airtight bulkheads, basically. That will allow you to float no matter what. Even if your ships get hit by enemy fire. Until then, air pumps basically your friend. You can have paddles that are basically like old steamers. That have giant paddles on the side or on the back. Like the Deepwater Guard, I've got a couple of these. There's hydrofoils, which you can use to build submarines and other things. And also help you to control your angle. You can build sails, like square rigging. You can build triangle rigging. Oh, wait. This is the main block, so you're not actually building out of this. You're gonna build sail attachments. And you need to attach them to a block. Like, for example, a wooden block, like that. You're gonna grab them like that. Now we're gonna build a small little mast up. There we go. Square rigging. Now, you'd probably want them to the side instead of to the rear. To the rear, you'd probably prefer having a triangle sail. Like this. And again, these can be used. You can see we already have 1.6, 1.7 meters per second speed. That is because we are sailing on the wind. And you can build a little weather vane on top of here, for example, which will point to the wind direction. So for example, if we wanted square rigging on the sides here, then that would work perfectly. But enough of sails for now, as you really don't see them a lot. Only the Deepwater Guard and some of the Onyx Watch, I believe, tend to use them. But they are a possibility that you can use. Then there is boat propellers, both small and huge. Mostly the difference here is size. Then there's also boat rudder, which helps you steer. I just realized I forgot to say something very important. These blocks, aside from having different costs, they're all different armor-wise. Like you can see on the right, wooden blocks have armor value of 2.5. Stone has armor 5. Metal has armor 10. Lightweight metal alloy has 5. Window has 1. Lead has 4. So basically, different shells have different armor piercing values. And you can change them and customize them. We'll cover that at some point, but right now, just basically know metal is the best if you want raw armor. But then again, it also costs a lot and it weighs much. As you can see over here, it says 0.4 weight for just a small 1x1 meter block. It does have the most health and the most armor, so that's good. Definitely has that going for it. And of course, they all vary. Larger beams, like 4 metal beam, it's got 1680 health. It's still got 10 armor. And it weighs 4 times as much as a single metal block does. Also, stacking armor does work. So for example, if I take a metal block here, turn off mirror mode. Let's say we are firing at it from this side. This little metal layer counts for 40. Because the armor value of this block can have up to 3 meters of blocks behind it. So basically, stacking armor does help. But then again, there's also a point to be made for having having some air in between as layered armor. Either way, there's also jet engines for jets. There's ion thrusters for space. There's a heat decoy which will attract missiles. We'll cover that at some point. There's a tailplane. I'm pretty much going to cover this more in depth when I'm talking about planes. Don't worry about that for now. Like I said, for boats, let's just focus on getting a little propeller on each side to propel us forwards. And then we'll put a rudder in there and then we can steer. Good. Now then, onto control. You can find all sorts of things there. For now, we're just going to look at a vehicle controller and place down a ship's wheel right here. And we can alternatively place down a chair. Chairs are good. You can sit in them and you can actually warp to them, but that is not a point. Let me just get the camera back here. We'll hold Q and then warp to teleport. Now we're on board of our little ship. It's just for demonstration purposes, don't worry. It's just to get the point across. There's a little debris in there right now. It's not really harming us or anything, but it's a bit annoying. Anyway, you can have displays, you can have automated control blocks, which help you control a lot of things. I'll just really quickly show you that. There's a lot of inputs, like, for example, if we are going faster than a certain speed, which we can set down here, then one of these things can trigger. It's basically your affected thing. So for example, we can tell the air pumps to stop working when we're going above 0 meters per second. That's just a thing you can do. We'll go more in depth later. There's Lua, there is a PYD block which can help you set things, which is very advanced. Don't worry about that for now. You're just going to want to use the vehicle controller and then specifically the ship's wheel for your boat, to keep it simple. Then there is things like resource storage, because you can have resources in the campaign. We're in the vehicle designer right now, and you can see down below the screen there is pretty much 5 things saying infinite. From left to right you have scrap, you have metal, you have oil, you have scrap. Oh no wait, first one is natural, not scrap. Damn it. I'm an idiot. And then there's also crystal. Those are basically your 5 main resources in the game. There's also secondary resources like fuel and ammo. Spares as well. But we'll cover those later when they come of use. There's also engines. I think there should be a prefab for now. Yes, there's just a prefab here, which is basically IKEA for your engine. You just plonk it down, you get a little engine. It's not the best engine, but it's gonna help you for now. It's gonna be good enough. And that's what we're looking for right now, just good enough. Now that takes care of engines. Under here we've got miscellaneous, all sorts of things like a door, a respawn beacon. You can have NPCs guarding your ship or doing gunnery. You can have a sign saying things like... Now you have a sign saying hello on your boat, which is beautiful. You can put posters down with actual linked images from the internet. You can have a teleport pad, shield, a radar, which is... we'll cover that at some point. Repair bots, repair tentacles. But let's keep it simple for now. Let's put some cannons on there. We're only gonna cover simple weapons here because this is the basics. So we all know those big and lovely pirate ships. They have a lot of cannons on the side, right? Now we too can have some cannons firing at our broadside. Importantly, you have to be close enough to be able to use them. And then you need ammo on board. So let's quickly place down processed resources. An ammo barrel. There we go. We now have ammo on board so we can fire our cannons. You can see on the left lower we have 2 weapons that we can select. And they are the rear cannons. Now let's just press Control to fire. And you can see we get some recoil and we fire a shot. And you can see in the lower right that it does take up some ammo. So how can we actually control all the guns at once? Well, we can just stand in the middle like this, in first person instead of third person. And now we can fire both our cannons. Or, if we want to stand around here and be like, we want to control all the things, we go to Control, and we put a fire control computer down. Basically what that does, it allows you to take control of all the guns at once. Just like our... just like standing in the middle would. Except you don't have to be standing in the middle, which is even better. Now we can put them into special firing lines, like I want you to be slot 1, so we will only select this cannon when we select 1. There we go. And you can tell it to have special constraints, like I only want you to fire, for example, we'll flip it. We can only have the cannon fire in that arc now. From there to there, but that's a bit more detailed, so we'll cover that later when we really need to. For now, just keep in mind simple weapons. You can have a ram, which obviously if you put a ram on a ship and you ram something, a ram is gonna do more damage than just regular ramming it would. You can have autocannons, small cannons, large cannons. You can fire a harpoon. You can have a drill on there, which literally drills through ships slowly. And you can have a little basic laser on there. Later on you can have missiles, you can have cannons, another type of cannon, and lasers. We're all going to be covering those in separate episodes. And there is AI. AI is a bit complicated, but for now, just remember, you need a mainframe, like that. Then you need a card slot, front and back. Now you can actually see little connector dots appearing, so I can now tell that this block's gonna connect like that. There we go. And if I were to place a front and back, it connects to the sides here, like you can see. So it would not connect to that. Anyway, for the simple purposes of it, you want to put a naval AI on there while turning off mirror mode. And then you can put on like sailing AI for if you want to put sails on there, or target prioritization, or aim point selection to tell it to target weak points. Well, now let's just go with basic target prioritization. Good, so this can now sail the ship. If we then go to, we'll just simply remove the spawn beacon. We can turn it to fleet move mode. And now, in theory, our boat should sail. Oh no, wait. We need to add fuel to it for the engine to actually work. We'll just put a little fuel tank on the front here. Or just on top of the ammo. That's not gonna go wrong. See? Now the AI is taking control of the vehicle. If you press C, you will go up to the AI control menu, which will allow you to turn off all the modes. Like ignore salvage and, you know what, just turn off. I've had enough of you for now. That's good. Now a little bit more in depth, but still quite basic. There is a wireless transmitter on here, which you can put on the actual AI mainframe, because you can have, for example, local weapon controllers. So for example, I don't want to control these guns on the front. We can put down a local weapons controller. It can control 4 weapons, probably the rams, and let's get rid of them. No, it can actually control all the cannons apparently, which is good. We're gonna give it a failsafe, which basically tells it to check before firing, and it will hold fire if it's gonna hit a friendly ship, or if it's gonna hit this ship more specifically. And then you go over to the wireless receiver, you put a wireless receiver on there, make sure it's on the same frequency as the mainframe transmitter is, and then this will transmit to here, and now the AI, if I turn it to combat or on, will fire if there is an enemy, which is pretty cool. But we're not going to be using that for now. Just wanted to show you guys that. Now there is also things like, you can put a flag down. If this is connected to your AI like that, then your special logo will appear on this flag here, which will always face upwards. You don't really need the radar system, you don't really need the tracker, you don't really need the detector here. You can use the AI connector over here to give it access to like a flag post here when you have a wireless transmitter there, that sort of thing. There's 4 available channels and you can just turn it off as well. You can also customize cards by hovering over them and pressing Q. So here we can set all the values that we want. Not really gonna go too much in depth for that. You can also have laser and missile warners, which will help you trigger automated defenses against missiles or lasers. But again, we'll cover that when you really need to know about that. Probably in the missiles and laser videos, to be more specific. Lastly, there's 2 more things that I'd like to cover. Or 3 rather. There's the new object tab. So for example, we like this ship, but we want to build a new one. Now we have a new vehicle over here. And we have automatically switched to building over this vehicle. We'll get rid of it for now, as we don't want another boat running around. We'll just take control of this little failure. You can also build a new fortress, which is basically an outpost, except it requires little thrusters, like you can see here right now. This is a pretty much a Sky Fortress turbine. Actually, that's exactly what it is. You need these Sky Fortress turbines to keep it afloat. Like you can have it floating 60 meters in the air, you can have it roughly floating around the sea line. Basically, the higher or lower that you want to go, the more power it takes. And then the more turbines you have, the less power you need per turbine. So overall your power usage goes down. You can also put a structure on the land. You can have villages, you can have, I know, you can have like an airfield, an airstrip. That sort of thing, you know, you can have towers. All sorts of crazy things. Then there's the spin and turn blocks, which are basically, for example, we can put one in here. We'll build a quick little that, and you can put, if we go over to miscellaneous, for example, we can put a strategic antenna on there, which need dish pieces attached to it. Basically, this is a tiny radar, and then we can have this continuous spinning around. Except you need an automated control block, as far as I know, to actually set it to spin. So just get back up from this depth of the seas, or from the depths rather. We could just be like, activate every second. You will tell the spin blocks to set rotation speed to like 3, and then test it. Now every second this block is going to tell that to spin. Now there's a 2-axis turret button here, which also gives you access to a 1-axis turret. This is basically what you're going to want to use for weapon turrets. So, for example, for most things, I prefer to use a 1-axis turret, but you can use a 2-axis turret, which basically... God, I need to get up from here. Let me quickly warp over to the boat. Turn off the AI. Hopefully not make you seasick, that would be terrible. Let's quickly go over to... where was it again? Oh right, the turret's over here. We'll tell it to be number 2. And you can see it will track my mouse pointer. And again, you can set firing restraints for it, or not. So you can just have it pointing everywhere. Right now, it does both axes, like up and down and left and right. I prefer to use the 1-axis turret, which is only horizontal. Basically like a spin block, except you can control it yourself. So yeah, there's a little difference there. Then, there is load sub-objects. So for example, I built something on this 2-axis subconstructible turret. I can then go to sub-objects and save it here. And then I can load it in as well. So now I can put a turret right on here. It's a bit messy, but you get the point, hopefully. You can build them, and you can save them, and you can quickly delete them by just getting rid of the turret block itself. Then lastly, prefabs. For example, if I want to keep this AI, I'll go to here, and then we're gonna go tell it to be like 3 wide and only 1 high. And now we can copy that. For example, I want to have it sticking out over here. We've got that exact same section of the ship is now sticking out over there. And then we can place it again over here. Prefabs are basically your friend. You really want to use them in the campaign. But hopefully that cleared some of your questions about From the Depths. This is just a basic video. Tomorrow I'm going to be going in depth about engines and nothing but engines. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something from it. Let me down below in Let me know down below in the comments if you learned anything from this. It would make my day if you did. If even one person is better able to understand From the Depths because of this tutorial, then that will make me feel very happy indeed. Yeah, if you liked the video, please do leave a like down below. Leave a comment if you have anything to say, and until next time, have a good one, folks.